Okay, y'all, we are here to go over an epic leg day. Priscilla and I, we do a push-pull leg split, right? That's the split that we do. So twice a week, we're hitting legs. Generally, we like to split up that twice a week where, say, the first half of the week might be quad focus. We'll sprinkle in some, hamstrings, some glutes and things like that. And then, say, the second half of the week, we will then do more of a, hamstring or glute focus with sprinkling in a little bit of quads, right? So we generally speaking we'll try to focus on one portion of the legs while we're still touching the other side of the legs so that we can kind of keep everything even. And then same thing on the following side of the week. So today was more of a quad focus day. So you'll see a lot of the exercises generally target, for the most part, more of the quads. But also I really want you to pay attention to is the form. Okay, so a lot of the cues I want you to look for and apply this to your own training. This is scientifically proven. A lot of the new studies coming out is really leaning towards this structure, is to get the most hypertrophy, the most muscle gain, the most muscle building out of each exercise. Generally, you want to focus on a nice, slow, and controlled eccentric, right? The contraction or the eccentric movement versus, an isometric or the concentric, which is, the contracting. And under load. So we want to control that eccentric under load. And then when we get to that eccentric and our muscle, whatever muscle we're targeting, is that it's its further stretch state, right? Full range of motion, and it's under load, under tension while being stretched. That's what's going to drive the most hypertrophy into that muscle. So as you'll see going into a lot of these leg workouts, that's what I want you guys to look for. I'll be talking about the cues, as we go, and you'll see, a lot of the form changes, some little bit things different than you might see the average person doing at the gym. But what that's going to lead to is increasing your potential for the hypertrophy or the muscle gain. Because let's face it, if you're going to be at the gym, you might as well maximize your ability to build the muscle while you're there, right? Doing a lot of extra trash workouts, or, say for example, with the leg press, right? You go in and you're only doing about half reps. Are you going to build some portion of your legs? Yes, right? If you go heavy and you're doing these half reps, are you going to get something out of it? Yes, you're going to get something out of it. But are you really maximizing your time? Could you say go full range of motion in that leg press, right? Get that deep stretch at the bottom and really maximize all that hypertrophy going in at the same time that you might be doing the half reps? To me, it just makes more sense. Might as well get, even if it's an extra 15%, right? Which it's proven to be a little bit more, but even if it was just 15%, if I can maximize getting an extra 15% out of each workout I'm doing by doing proper form, going full range of motion, controlling that eccentric load, and getting a good stretch under tension, then I might as well do it. I'm already at the gym. I might as well maximize my gains. Now, first exercise is going to be the leg press. We start off with leg press. We generally do 1 or 2 warm-up sets just to kind of get our joints lubricated, our muscles lubricated, ready to go, get nice and warm for the exercise. Then we go into 3 or 4 working sets. Depends on kind of what we're targeting that day. So for the leg press, this is the cue I want you to look for. Yes, we're blessed. We have an Arsenal, brand leg press. It's one of the best leg presses. If your gym has an Arsenal press, even better. It's a great setup, a lot of customization, a lot of stuff you can do. But I really want you to focus is keeping your heels planted on the sled. And as you come down into the leg press movement and you're starting to come down into that eccentric, I want you to control the weight as you come down. And I really want you to think about that range of motion of getting your knees close to your armpits, right? We really want your lower back not to round, okay? We want your butt planted on that seat. And I want you to go as deep as you can into that leg press without allowing your lower back to round. As long as you can keep a good stable platform in your lower back and keep your hips from rounding out, and instead allowing that weight to drive your legs back and almost touching your knees into your armpit, that's going to give you that full range of motion. Okay. And at the same time, as you control that weight, let's get a slight pause at the bottom, really get into that deep stretch. So what you're doing is you're really stretching the muscles under tension, under load, and you're getting that good stretch. You're holding that stretch, and then you're going to press. Okay. You're going to push forward. You're going to explode out that movement and still under control, but you're going to press. And if you want to go to full lockout, you can. It's not going to kill you. Okay. Like a lot of people always talk about going to full lockout. If you want to go to full lockout, go to full lockout. If you want to maybe go 3/4 the way up and keep that tension and then lower back down under control again, you can do that as well. Next cue I want you to think about while you're doing the leg press is keeping your chest and your tummy kind of pushed out forward, really allowing those hips to drive back, keeping that breath inside and really compressing the inside of your body, allowing that air pressure to kind of stabilize your core, right, so to speak, but allowing those knees to go back into that deep stretch position while maintaining your heels contacted on the sled, okay? We don't really want it going on our toes. We want to keep it in our heels. So if you have to lift your foot a little bit higher up on that sled to get to in a position where your heels are more planted flat and you're able to drive with your heels and press out, that's going to give you the most benefit out of this exercise. Next up, we have the wonderful hack squats. Our gym has got some of the best equipment you can get. We happen to have an Atlantis hack squat machine. Atlantis equipment make amazing equipment in the gym, and this hack squat is no different. So let's talk about the cues that we're looking for into the hack squat. Same thing. We want to control that eccentric load. So as we're going into the descent into that squat, we want to get as low as we possibly can, okay? If you can bottom out the machine, get nice and low, but do it under control, coming down into that low, deep squat, allowing your body to maintain a nice straight back, nice good posture, coming all the way down to that squat, and then same thing. We're going to drive our heels through the platform to lift the weight back up. Now, you're going to want to choose a weight that you can comfortably do under control. Okay, so that's a big thing is a lot of people will just slam weights on there and they don't control the movement on the eccentric load or on the eccentric descent. They don't really control it. So it just kind of like starts to drop and they start losing their form. And that can cause a lot of issues. Okay, so we really want to get in a nice stance that we can comfortably get into a good squat. That's a big thing is choosing your stance, how wide you want your feet. Choose what's comfortable for you. So the stance that might be comfortable for me might not be comfortable for you. It might not be comfortable for your gym partner. It might not be comfortable for the guy that's going to go up next to you or the girl that's going to go up on the machine after you. Everybody has a different squatting potential, and everybody's stance might feel a little bit more comfortable or a little bit less comfortable depending on, their mobility of their hips, their ankles, and their knees and things like that, maybe prior injuries, right? So you really want to choose a stance that works for you and a stance that's comfortable for you, but still allows you to maintain good form. Next up, we actually decided to target our hamstrings. We went to a line hamstring curl. Same thing. You're pretty much going to hear the same cues through most of the workouts is really controlling that eccentric movement, right? So as you curl the weight up, really control the weight on the way down, taking decent amount of time. We kind of do like a 5-second count at minimum. So we'll curl the weight and then count, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000 on that slow descent, really getting that good, deep controlled eccentric on the hamstrings. And then right before you decide to curl back up, you pause for about half a second to a second at the bottom, getting that real good stretch on the hamstring in that fully extended portion of the exercise. Now, as the weight starts to get heavier or you're starting to get fatigued, you'll start noticing that you might be trying to just really oomph up that weight up towards your butt. If you have to, drop the weight, right? We really want to control the movement on the way up, and we want to control that eccentric movement on the way down. We really want to stay under control on all these exercises because we want to keep tension and we want to keep our muscles under tension for the maximum amount of time. And especially on that eccentric load, we really want to maximize on that descent and on that stretch on the muscles. And we really want to drive hypertrophy by kind of accentuating that as much as we can, right? Getting that stretch as long as possible, getting that eccentric load as long as possible, but everything is under control. We don't want to slam the weight up and we don't want to slam the weight down. Okay, this next exercise, this is the sissy squat machine, right? So this one's bolted in. I'm not a big fan of regular sissy squats. having a machine or a bench that's set up for sissy squats definitely helps take a lot of the pressure out of your knees and a lot of the issues that can come from doing sissy squats. So this right here is a burner that we're doing for our quads. So if we haven't already punished our quads enough, we're really going to try to drive just a little bit extra, a little more percentage out of our quads by doing the sissy squat machine. A couple cues on the sissy squat machine. I'm sure you're going to guess it. Slow eccentric control. So same thing, from the upright position, you want to slowly go down. You want to get as much stretch on those quads as possible. So if you can actually set the back plate of the sissy bar machine just underneath, where your calf maybe comes up to underneath your knee, you really don't want this thing at the back of your knees because it's really going to limit how far motion you can go down, how deep you can go into that stretch. And the whole purpose of this over, say, doing, for example, this day, instead of doing, say, leg extensions, is if you set up the sissy squat machine right and you have the back plate at a good spot where it supports your calf and supports the back of your legs where you're locked in, but it's not too high up on your knee that limits your mobility, you can actually get super deep, as you'll see, into these sissy squats, and that's going to get a very, very deep stretch on the quad under tension and under load. Whether you're doing these body weights or you're doing these with weighted, these are rough. Right? You do enough of these and your quads are going to be spent. So you really want to drive that hypertrophy by controlling that load all the way down, getting a good stretch and a good pause at the bottom, really feeling that stretch in the quads before you explode back up. And once again, everything's under control. You want to do all these movements. You don't want any bouncing. You don't want any slamming. You don't want anything like that. You really want to maintain control so that you can protect your knees, you can protect a lot of parts of your legs that might be under stress during this type of movement. So if you're new to sissy squats, just do body weight. Try to go as low as you can. Ideally, the deeper of a stretch you can get into those quads, the better. Just do it knowing that if you don't control it and you're kind of bouncing, you're putting a lot of pressure onto your knees, right? So doing regular sissy squats without the machine, same thing. You're putting a lot of unneeded pressure into your knees. And there's other exercises that can actually drive more hypertrophy than a regular sissy squat. We just decided to add the sissy squat machine this day because we just really wanted to drive extra blood flow and extra hypertrophy into our quads. And this was a great way that we can show the difference between, say, doing a leg extension where the machine kind of limits how far back and how much of a stretch you can get on your quad, versus doing something like this where even though it's body weight, you're still able to get a really good stretch on those quads in that down position, especially if you're controlling it all the way down and you're getting a good deep pause, even better. Now, like I said earlier, we like to sprinkle other little exercises. So even though this was supposed to be more of a quad focused day, we actually decided we were going to hit our hamstrings a little bit more than just doing the hamstring curls. So what we decided to do was do some deficit stiff-legged deadlifts using a Smith machine. Now for the setup. Generally, you want a decent sized platform so that most Smith machines only go so far down. Okay, so a lot of Smith machines you're going to see in the gym, the descent can only go so far, so you can't really get a good deficit when you're trying to get that stiff-legged deadlift. You're trying to get that really good stretch in the hamstring. So what we do is we put a platform on it. We stand up on the platform. And then that allows us on that descent, right, where we're keeping a nice big chest, nice straight back, keeping a little arch in our back, and we're trying to keep our legs somewhat stiff, right? But the real cue that you want to look for is you really want to drive your hips back, trying to keep the bar as close to your shins as possible, trying to keep your knees from bending too much, right? If you get a little bit of knee flexion in there, it's not the end of the world, but the stiffer you can keep your knees and the further back you can drive your hips and your glutes towards behind you, the deeper of a stretch you can get into those hamstrings. We don't want to sacrifice our posture on our back to get deeper into the hamstring. So as you go down, you really don't want to round your back to try to get that deficit even lower. You really want to keep a nice tall chest, right? Keep that chest as flat as possible and really drive your hips back while trying to keep a nice arch in your back so that you don't round out. You want to get as low as you possibly can in this deficit to where you're getting a good stretch during your hamstrings, and you're going to feel your hamstring stretch. If you're doing these properly, you will for sure feel a nice stretch in your hamstring, right? Sometimes you might not feel like you're getting anything out of the workout until the following day or two when you're like, dude, my hamstrings are spent. Yeah, because that stretch, especially under load and under tension, that's where you're getting hypertrophy. So that is just a sample of one of our leg days. Like that was the first half of the week. Second half of the week, we're probably going to target more hamstring, more glute, throw in a little bit of quads. But that's an example. So if you guys want to see more content like this, or just us even talking inside the gym, hit that like, follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching on. For YouTube, if you can subscribe, maybe put in a comment, maybe something you'd like to see, or maybe an explanation of an exercise that you do, or you want to know about proper form, things like that. We really want to drive the notion that, you know, controlling that eccentric load is what's really going to give you the most hypertrophy and the most muscle gain out of each workout. So we're going to show you a lot of different exercises, whether it's going to be legs or, you know, upper back, or like a push movement or a pull movement, whatever it is. We're really going to kind of show off what the true form and getting a good range of motion and how beneficial that's going to be for you, not just in muscle gain, but overall joint health, mobility, and things like that. So if you like this content, I appreciate it if you hit that like button, follow, subscribe, whatever it is. Check out our other social medias. We got Instagram, we got the TikTok, we got all of it. So we also stream live. We'll probably be streaming some workouts live too. So we'd love to see you guys there, and we hope you guys have a blessed day. See you on the next one.